wanting to be able to reach casi la mayor, I mean, everybody. We don't want to leave anybody out. If you can see the translation on the bottom, you know, as we speak, so we don't have to stop and, you know, we could still change it up just to be able to get the momentum going, but you'll see the translation abajo as we're talking.
So is somebody doing this, or is the system is doing this?
We have an excellent tech person being in charge of all this.
Oh, I will try to slower when I speak, because I do speak very fast.
But bienvenidas. I mean, you two are the best to be able to give lots of information, which I get asked this a lot at work, you know. So, I mean, we do say that we're going to start at 4 o'clock. We want to be able to, you know, stay with that and do a little bit of house rules. If anybody has any questions, they can feel free to ask questions on their text. And I want to be able to give people my business cards, and this is just showing some of the stuff that we do to help businesses. If you take a look at get your phone, if you get your phone and you put your phone right onto the QR code, and it will take you directly to my contact electronic business card. So was that, did you try, go ahead and try that, Sana.
Okay, I'll try.
Suhei, get your phone. This is my contact information. And for those of you, if you could feel free to reach out to us, get your phone, put your picture on there. It'll take you directly to my electronic business card, and all, as well as all of us. Did it work?
Wow, you guys are fancy.
It's about we're moving on up to the millennials. We're catching up. We have a lot of young live Latinas, young women own business that are excited about, you know, getting some information out. So
that's great.
Okay, bienvenidos a todos. Welcome everybody. I'd like to begin our charlas, table talks, as some people know it. And what we want to introduce two young ladies that work with labor and industries on reaching out and giving them great information. And the topic of today is going to be compensation for the workers, compensación de los trabajadores. And if you take a look at, we have a PowerPoint that they provided us. So we want to be able to, you guys to go ahead and have everybody on board who's on. If you have any questions, introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Cynthia. I'm a part of Centro de Servicios Comunitarios. And what we do is we try to host charlas every single month. So what charlas are they're table talks where we kind of invite guest speakers to come on in and kind of give their expertise and knowledge and resources to the community, to our small businesses, on how they can benefit them, how they can make our small businesses succeed, sustainable, and grow. And that's where we come in place. We also give them the resources and tools that we need, and through technology today, we have to use with what we got, especially with COVID happening. That's where charlas came good in place. So if you feel that you would like to talk on our next charlas and you feel that you have a great topic to talk about, feel free, reach out to us and you can be our next guest speaker. But the whole purpose is to kind of get each other's ideas, different beliefs, different resources and tools where we can kind of gather and talk about and share just some great information. You can go ahead and feel free to visit our website for further info, www.cscyakima.com. And if you have any other questions as we begin our presentation and our talk, Feel free, if you guys have questions, feel free, stop, raise your hand, or just type on in the chat or in the Facebook feed. Feel free to write your questions that you guys might have. And then feel free, I like to introduce, we have Suhi and Susana with us today through LNI. That's gonna present some great information. I know we don't know, there's so many resources that are offered by LNI that it's kind of bombards us with so much information. We really don't know the many tools and resources that they offer. So that's why we kind of like to give our business owners some great information about LNI and the things that they do offer. So I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves and take it from here.
Thank you, Cynthia. So I am Suhey Garcia. I am a management analyst in insurance services language access. Prior to that, I have 15 years of working in workers' compensation insurance. And so I am very well versed on the ins and outs as a former claims manager and unit supervisor, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. Please feel free to put them in the chat or your Facebook Messenger. The only thing I would ask everyone is if it is specific to a claim, please do not put the claim number in any of those messages. We can touch base offline, and so if there's any specifics, we can get into those private claims separately, and I'll just speak in general terms, and that way everybody's confidentiality is protected. Susana?
Hello, everyone. I'm Susana Rodriguez, and I work with labor and industry. And I do the outreach for the whole agency. So Suhe, she is the expert in this topic. But pretty much if you guys have any other questions in regards of all of the other programs that LNI offers, I can be at your service. You can contact me and I'll make sure to connect you to the expert in that specific program. Thank you.
Great. So with that, we'll get in there. And if Alicia or Cynthia, if you guys can keep an eye on the chat and just, I'm happy to stop at any time and answer questions as we go along. I'd appreciate it. Thank you. So for today's goals, we would like everyone to learn a little bit about LNI because it is a massive agency that has a lot of programs that are here and designed to help you. We'll also go over some basic information about workers' compensation, why it's important, how it helps employers. And then we'll go over how you can take an active role in the management of the claim to reduce your claim costs. So we'll give you some tips on what you as an employer can do to help the claim duration shorten, and so that we can help your worker get back to work and then help you get back to business. Next slide, please. So first and foremost, our mission at LNI is to keep Washington safe and working. We are committed to making sure that we're doing everything in our power to keep our workers, our employers, our businesses, our public safe. And should something unfortunately happen and there is a workplace accident, it is our responsibility to also do everything that we can to help the worker get back to some type of work, and also to make sure that the employer's rights as far as the cost of the claims are being looked at, and so that their business doesn't further suffer from the loss of productivity because of an injured worker. So at LNI, one of our main goals is to keep workers and the public safe. And so what that means is that we want to help workers and businesses understand what they can do to reduce workplace injuries. Because if you reduce injuries, you're bringing down the costs overall for workers' compensation, and it improves your productivity. So what that looks like is, we want to stop an injury from even happening. The best claim is the claim that never happened. So that starts off with your employee orientation. We want to encourage you to have training when your workers first on board, and maybe even a yearly update to let workers know that if they're injured on the job, no matter how minute, even if it's a little cut, you report the job right away, that there's no fear of reporting an injury. There's also situations where maybe there might have been an accident. So reporting that, giving your workers the sense of trust in you as an employer, that if they report something to you, you'll do your best to take care of it. Or maybe you guys work as a team to figure out a better way to get the job done in a safe manner. The other thing that is important for employers to really let their workers know from the beginning, before anything ever happens, is that hopefully you guys all have a program in which you can help your workers come back to work, even if it's light duty or modified duty. So that while they're recovering, they can still have an open claim. They can still be going to the doctor, but they can also work. So, I'm hurt, I'm working. There are things that we can do, that we can take a look at the job and just say, hey, let's just modify a little bit. It gets the person back to work. And studies prove that getting back to work after an injury does increase the time that you heal. So that's helpful. But what it really shows your worker and your business as a whole is that you care about your workers and that you're committed to bringing them back to work. Because at the end of the day, your employee came to you because they wanted a job to support their families, right? And you're employing them because they do a good job. And in turn, it supports your business for you to support your families. So when something happens, we want to make sure that everybody's working together and talking to each other so we can get back to business the way it was before the injury. And if you don't have any light duty or modified work, I'm going to give you some tips and some information on the services that LNI has that are at no cost to you, that can help you create some of that. And then start getting that work culture into getting everybody back to work safely. Next slide. So first, what is workers' compensation? It's an insurance that protects employers and workers when injuries or illnesses happen on the job. It is mandated by state law. It's a no-fault insurance, and it's paid for by premium, with premiums paid by both you, the employer, and the worker. So everybody gets their little paycheck, and everybody sees LNI took their nice little chunk. Well, what that chunk goes to is paying the workers' compensation program, so that when accidents do happen, we would be responsible for covering all medical costs, lost wages, and if needed, vocational services that are related to the claim. So what we really call this is the grand deal. Because back in the day when people got hurt, what they ended up doing is they sued the employer or the business because it was an unsafe place, and then the employer went out of business. So what the state decided is we would just make it a state law that everybody is going to be covered. We will manage it and make sure that it follows the guidelines, that we're only covering costs that pertain to the injury. And in turn, what that means is that employers are protected from being sued, so they don't have to fear losing their businesses. And so the employers have that comfort. And at the same time, the worker feels comfort knowing that if they get hurt on the job, they will be covered. Next slide. So the law that gives us the authority is Title 51 from Industrial Insurance. It states, like I said earlier, coverage is mandatory unless you're self-employed. If you're self-employed, you can opt in. So that's always an option, and actually a really good idea because it'll protect you as well as a self-employer. And workers and employers can't exempt themselves from the responsibilities or waive their entitled benefits. So if you decide that, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and pay the cost of the medical bill so we don't have to do LNI, not a good idea. It's called claim suppression. It's not allowed. Let us do our job in protecting you, the employer, and helping the worker recover so they can get back to work. There are also some instances where even workers say, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want my employer to think anything bad of me, or that, I don't want people to worry. That's where, like, the first part where I came with that first day of training, when people are new to your business, you really want to push the fact that it's a safe business. You guys are open to communication, and accidents happen. And if they do happen, this is how we handle it. You file an LNI claim and we'll take it from there. Next slide, please. So like I said, we call it the grand bargain. Um, through workers' compensation, it's our responsibility to pay for the treatment. If the worker is unable to work because of the injury, they may be entitled to partial wage replacement. And so the employer also has the opportunity to pay the worker's wages. We call it kept on salary. And when an employer does that, we really encourage it because it minimizes the cost of the claim. So you're not adding the time loss component. The worker is getting their full salary. So it's just as if they were regularly working. And what it really does is it continues to maintain the relationship between the employer and the worker. Because by you keeping them on salary, if you're able to, we understand some businesses it's just not fiscally possible, but if you're able to, it shows the worker that they're still valued. You still consider them an employee, so you're keeping them on the payroll. And there's also an expectation that as they start to get better and can come back to work, they will come back to work. It's also through workers' compensation. Unfortunately, there are injuries where we can't get the person back to where they were before. So we would have to consider what we call permanent partial disability. So for example, if like I actually cut my finger off, I can't replace my finger, right? The state would be responsible when the claim closes to pay a portion, which the laws have figured out every year that my finger is worth. And then so that in turn, there's no bargaining with that. It's just a number that is set and it's based on the medical documentation from the doctor that says how much disability there is. And again, that comes from the big fund that everybody's paying to their entire work life. And then, like I stated earlier, with all these benefits, the great thing for employers is, well, the way of looking at it is that workers are also giving up their rights to sue their employers for negligence. Because in all honesty, accidents are accidents, and it is very rarely the case that accidents occur due to employer negligence. So the way that workers' comp is built, I think really benefits everybody at the end. Next slide. So goal 2 is helping our injured workers heal and return to work. So what that looks like is we engage all our staff and our suppliers, our doctors, anybody that we pay to give our workers and employers quick access to high quality services that help our workers heal and return to work. The biggest thing and what you're going to hear me continue to say throughout the presentation is communication is number one. When accidents happen, everybody's scared. Most of the time, it's their very first accident. It might be the first claim for you as an employer, and you don't know what's expected of you. What I want, if you take anything away from this presentation, I want you to take away that we are here for you and that you can pick up that phone and call the claims manager that you're going to be given the name and number to when you receive that claim notice. And their job is to answer each and every one of your questions. That is what we are trained to do. If we don't have the answer to your question, just like Susana pointed out earlier, it's our job to figure out the answer and get back to you. So please never hesitate to pick up the phone and call us. That's what we're here for. And we don't know what you need unless you tell us. The other thing is stay in communication with your worker. So for example, and this happens all the time. You show up to work and I find out, oh, Susana, she fell at home and she has an accident. So what does everybody at work do? Everybody gets together, like, let's send Susana a get well card. Let's check in on Susana. Is she doing okay? That's kind of the same thing you want to do with your workers when they have a work-related injury. You don't want it to be looked at as something that happened and you have to stay away. They're still your employee. They're still part of your working family. I'm certain that there is a respect and a care for each other. So it's okay to check in on your worker and just say, hey, how's it going? When's your next doctor's appointment? What do the doctors say? And what we hear a lot from workers, and you might also have experience in your own personal life as well, is When people get hurt, they get scared and they think that it's uncomfortable to talk about it. And who knows what their boss might think of them if they're causing problems. So you making that contact with the worker opens the door up to communication and lets your worker know that you're still there available. And that way, when they go see the doctor and the doctor starts talking to them about being able to return light duty, they know that that's an option with you and that they can come back and talk to you. And maybe you don't have something available right away, but now we're starting to think, and now we're starting to figure out what do we need to do and how can we help. What you can also do as an employer is, you can stay informed not only by calling the claims manager, but we do have the claims account center, and you can locate it by going to our main LNI webpage, and you'll see a link there that says like claim account center and check claim status. You as an employer can log in there and you will see any claim that your business has ever had. You can send direct messages at any time to the claims manager. You can send them in any language that you prefer. Same with when you contact the claims manager or anybody in the department. If you need an interpreter, we always have services available. And if you as an employer prefer to have your correspondence in a language other than English, let us know, let the claims manager know, and we'll make sure to get that to you. Because what we want to make sure of is that everything that we're sending you, you're able to understand, and that you know that if you have questions, you should be able to easily find it. So please never hesitate to let us know what you need and how you need it. And again, another way
Okay,
to
I have a question real quick.
Sure.
If, let's just say I hurt myself at work, does one have to be the one to sign in to get a claim started, or how does that, what's that process? Are you going to go through that?
Great question. I'm happy to go through it right now. So first things first, an accident happens, your worker reports it to you. You as an employer hopefully have an incident form that you can fill out, always a great idea because now you have documentation of it happened. And then we want you to encourage the worker to go to the doctor and file that claim and get looked at. They can file it at the doctor's office by paper. The doctor's offices have reports of accidents there. They can also file it over the phone. We have intake personnel and we have bilingual staff that can take the message over the phone and gather the information. And that is at 1-800-FILE-CLAIM. And I'll get that and make sure I get that to you guys before we leave as well. And then the other manner of doing it, mail, online, doctor's office. Yep, those are your options. But the key thing is the worker has to be the one that files the claim. So although you, the employer, were notified, a claim hasn't started yet. And that's why it's really important that you as an employer encourage your worker to go ahead and get that claim filed, no matter how small the injury, because you never know what's going to happen. So, for example, this is a true story. We had a guy who dropped something on his foot, like he was carrying lumber. He said, le cayó something real heavy on his toe. And he said, oh, it hurts, but it's fine. And he didn't file a claim. Cut to like 3 months later, his foot really, really hurts. And he finally goes to the doctor's office. And what happened was when he hit his foot, he had a puncture wound. What happened is it got infected. The man is diabetic. And now he lost it. There is fear that he's losing his foot. All because, the infection started to spread. But had he filed that claim right away, the doctor would have seen him. We would have taken a look at, we're not going to treat his diabetes. That's not part of the injury claim. But it's important to know that he has those conditions so that the doctor knows how to treat the injury to prevent it from getting worse. So that's a terrible scenario, but it happened. And so that claim could have been done in 6 months instead of resulting in a very expensive claim for everybody. The worker lost part of his body. The employer's claim costs went through the roof because of all this happened. And it could have easily been prevented by just going to the doctor. I would say 80% of our claims that we receive are actually considered medical only claims, which means we never paid any time off at all. It was one doctor's visit. They went in, doctor said, hey, it looks good. If it still hurts in a week, come back. Other than that, you should be good. Yeah, the claim's filed, everything's good to go. The other important thing with filing the claim is, so I said the worker can file it over the phone. They're still going to need to sign a type of report of accident, but at least by notifying us on the phone, it gets the process going and we get them a claim number. Do you have any additional questions to that since we're on that topic?
No, that was one of the questions that I get people coming in asking, you know, Doña, necesito ayuda. A lot of them don't know how to use the computers. And so that's one of the ways that we try to help as well, you know, get them to the right people that are able. But it's something new, you know, that if they have caseworkers that are already able to help them, I mean, use that service. So that's great that you're bringing that up.
And that very first visit, whether or not we allow the claim or reject it, is going to be paid for. So that's important to let your workers know. Let us decide if it's an actual work injury claim that we're going to accept. Like I said, if it ends up at that visit from what we received, it's not something that we can allow and we have to reject it. We are going to pay the office visit. We are going to pay for the report of accident. But then, you know, the worker now knows what they need to do next.
That was a good example that you put, you know, you got hurt, you know, oh no, voy a estar bien, I'm going to be okay. You know, it's not going to hurt down the road. You know, I wish I would have documented basically is what they're doing.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll go to
And if you guys like that are watching this, or the people that are looking at this in the future, if you guys need any help, because we do get so many different clients that need assistance, they just, because I mean, let's be honest, the LNI website is bombarded with tons of information. And so it's kind of like, well, by the time they're done looking at all the information, it's kind of like, where do I begin? Feel free, that's why we're here. Like, feel free to reach out to us if you need some assistance, even if you like, want to get in contact with anybody through LNI, give us a call. We can put you in connection with the right person that can assist you, and just kind of make that connection. Because I know sometimes it can kind of be, oh my gosh, LNI, everybody makes a big deal over LNI. Feel free to reach out to us, give us a call, send us an email, whatever works best for you, and we can help you and put you in connection with the person that you need to talk to.
Absolutely. And then please know that any decisions that we make on the claim, you're going to get what we call a legal order. It'll say legal order on the paperwork. And at the bottom, it's going to have your protest rights. And those are protest rights for everybody, for you, the employer, and for the worker. So if anybody is in disagreement with any decision we make, you always have the right to send in a protest. What you have to make sure to do, though, is you have to send the protest in writing. So we're not going to be able to take the protest over the phone. You are obviously more than welcome to call us and let us know, hey, you know, I disagree with this. This is why. Maybe in that conversation, the claims manager explains to you why a decision was made and it makes sense. And you go, oh, okay, now that makes sense. I get it. Thank you. But then if you say, perdón, no, I still disagree. The claims manager will ask you, okay, can you please send that in writing? It protects you because it also documents the claim file. Unfortunately, as claims become more complex, they may need to move to a different claims manager. And so it's always nice to have as much as you can documented in the file. So when that new claims manager looks at it, they can see right away what the issues are. And I'll move on to the next slide. But this is great. Ask, comment anytime. So your workers' rights include the right to choose their provider. So for the very first visit where they file the claim, any doctor can see them. Any doctor that they go to will be able to see them, will be able to file a claim, and we will pay for that visit. The follow-up visit, if they need additional treatment, has to be a doctor that's within our provider network. Yes, Alicia.
So So you can go to any medical doctor to be able to get diagnosed, right? And then if need be, you need a specialist to be able to say, to move on to the next level, to make a claim with LNI, or can your doctor that you first go to, that you select, make that decision?
That doctor that you select, by law, if you tell them it's a work injury, they are required to fill out a report of accident for you.
Okay, okay.
And if you ever come into contact with a provider that is not willing to do that, or if your workers tell you that that was the case, that's when you want to reach out to us and let us know, because that is something that we want to fix. And maybe that provider just needs some more information and education. Oftentimes we find that providers think that they're not going to get paid. And so that's why they say no. So we just want everybody to know that first visit is going to be paid no matter what.
Oh, cool. That's nice. That's good to know.
Your worker might go to that first visit, and just like you said, Alicia, maybe they need to go to a specialist. Like that visit is not going to be enough. It is possible that we will pay for that second follow-up, even if the claim's not allowed. And the reason is that we're needing additional information to make a decision. And so if we need another doctor's visit, if we need to get an x-ray, if we need to get an MRI, in order for us to determine whether or not it's going to be an allowable claim, we are responsible for paying for that.
I have a question.
Yes, Susana.
So what the process will be? So let's say a second opinion, or a little deeper study is needed. So then I will let my case manager know, or how the worker will navigate this situation.
So the provider will be sending in the information to us, and they will be putting in that request for the referral, and the claims manager will look at it and then make a decision. However, I still encourage everyone, including you, the employer, that if you or the worker find out that another visit needs to happen, it is always okay to call the claims manager and say, are we okay to get this scheduled? The claim's not allowed yet. Because, you don't want to be at the bottom of the list. The sooner we get to the treatment that we need, the quicker we can get people back to work.
And those services, again, are paid for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. The responsibility of our LNI providers that are in the network is that they are expected to document the need for continued medical benefits, and they are expected to document the need for vocational services. So when they sign up to be an LNI provider, they get a nice long list of everything that they have to make sure that they do when they document the injury and what further treatment is needed. Because we, and I'm including you, the employer, on this, because you are paying for the treatment, we are only required to pay for curative treatment. So what does that mean? It means we're only going to pay for treatment that's going to improve the condition and get them better medically, or get them in a position where they're able to go back to work. So they're not going to be able to get massages for 6 months. After a while, the massage is not going to help anymore. It might help with the pain, but unfortunately, pain is considered subjective, which means we can't see it, we can't measure it. And because, it's a state fund, we're trying to do everything as fair and equitable to everybody, including the employer. When we treat things, we need to be able to see that something is objectively wrong. So if I broke my hand, an x-ray will show that. Any treatment that I get should be to heal the hand. If later I just need like Tylenol for the rest of my life, that's not going to be covered. And so that's how LNI can help document and support when we're no longer going to pay for medical services. The other part, the vocational part, the doctors are required that when they say somebody has to be off work, they have to say why. and they have to show that there's an objective reason why. So, and this happens to us all the time. You'll go to the doctor and they'll ask you, are you okay to go back to work? Of course they're going to ask you because it's your decision. You're going to decide whether or not you want to go back to work. Whether or not we're going to pay you while you're off work is a different question. So if the worker says, I just don't feel good, I think I want to let myself relax a little bit more. If all the doctor puts in there, they want to relax or it hurts, we're not going to be paying time off. And so that's another incentive for workers, to get people in the mindset that you're off work because you physically cannot do the job. And with that, so not only is the doctor responsible for helping us with vocational services, if we are in a position where the worker can't go back to work and we're starting to look at light duty, it is the doctor's responsibility to take a look at the job description that you, the employer, are able to give them so that they can take a look at it and say, well, based on their injury, they can't type, or they can't climb ladders right now because their leg's broken. Okay, well, that makes sense. So then that helps us all work together. You, the employer, us, L&I, the worker, the doctor, say, hey, we need to get this guy back to work. He can't climb ladders. Is there something he can do that doesn't require climbing ladders? And then that's when we start easing people going back to work. And then eventually, we hope that it's an injury where he or she will recover, and they will climb ladders again. We can add that later. But the whole thing starts with continuing everybody talking to each other and asking questions. It's always okay to ask questions. Next slide. So I kind of went over the provider's role as far as medical benefits. Remember, it's always the accepted condition, and any treatment that we authorize is expected to approve the condition. As far as we went over vocational services, that we need those objective findings, and that they are required to review job descriptions. And if we assign a vocational counselor who specializes in return to work, doctors are expected to return their phone calls and see them as well if necessary. As far as accepted conditions, it is important to just keep in mind that let's say I just hurt my finger, but let's say I also injured a nerve and the nerve damage started extending this way. If I start having problems here with my elbow because of that nerve, the doctor might say, hey, we need to add that onto the claim, because had this not happened, this wouldn't have happened. And so that's part of the claims manager's job, is to follow that little cookie trail to make sure that if we end up adding any conditions, we have a medical opinion that explains exactly how it's related. And then we would issue a legal order that says we are now accepting this condition. And again, if you disagree and you look at it and you say, that doesn't make sense, she hurt her finger, why are we allowing the foot? Protest. And then we'll reconsider everything. Oh, and I'm sorry, with protest, it's important to note you have 60 days to do it. If it's longer than 60 days, that order becomes final and binding, and there's no way we can reconsider it again. So that's why that's why I really stress to everybody here that when you start getting your letters, well, hopefully you never get a claim, right? But if you do get a claim regarding your worker, if you're having trouble reading it, or you just feel more comfortable reading it in Spanish, let us know and we'll get that translated and make sure that everything you get from that point on that claim is in Spanish. That way you guys know what you need to protest if you need to protest. Next slide. So what our third goal is to make it easy to do business and engage with L&I. And thank you to Alicia and Cynthia. That's why we're here. We want to make sure that when we're doing our job, it's what you need as an employer. Are we providing you the service that you need to keep your business functioning? Are you aware that you have all these services and benefits available to you? And are you aware that most of them are free to you? and it is our job to give them to you anytime that you ask in the language that you prefer. So we have the Claim Account Center. Unfortunately, at this time, it's only in English. It is in our big department project to get that fixed. But if you're comfortable navigating the website in English, you're more than, Claim Account Center is great. You can also protest through there as well. And you can also take a look at all the documents in the claim, including the medical documents, any phone conversations, because we have to log our conversations. Anything that's happening in regards to the claim is documented in there. So you're always available to take a look at it. We provide interpretation services to speak with the claims manager at no cost to the claim. And we also have the Stay at Work program. And the Stay at Work program is great. What it does is if you have a worker who is unable to return to their job of injury because of their injury, so they can go back to work, but in some light duty capacity, the Stay at Work program can pay for half of their wages while they are returning to work. In that money, that goes straight to you, the employer. So we do it as a reimbursement. So they're going to work. You're going to pay them as you usually do. You'll work with our Stay at Work program, and then you will be reimbursed for half of that money. The Stay at Work program can also pay for any tools or materials or any additional training that's needed. We pay up to $10,000 for training materials. And any supplies that have to be purchased to help your worker go back to work, you, the employer, get to keep it through the Stay at Work program. So let's say you have a worker that is unable to lift something over 40 pounds, vamos a decir. And we decide, hey, we can get this machine that'll lift it for them. And so they don't have to do that. That machine now belongs to the employer. And you guys, it's yours, you keep it, you're able to then use it however you need to. So the Stay at Work program is excellent as far as helping you, the employer, really get a good light duty program. And then again, it shows the rest of your company and your business that you're doing everything you can as an employer to make sure that people are comfortable coming back to work, and that you're making sure that as they're working, they're going to be safe along the way as they get better. So there's no shame in having an open claim and coming back to work. And like I said, it's a benefit. You get half the wages back, you keep the supplies. If your job requires uniforms or any type of special clothing that they have to wear to do the job, we will pay for that. You keep all of that as the employer. Next slide. So the vocational recovery counselor's role. So if we find that the worker can't go back to work because of their injury, the very first thing you're going to hear from the claims manager is, hey, are you able to, do you have a light duty program? Do you have something already available? You might say yes, and we're good to go, and we help set that up. There might be a case where, like, this is my first claim. I've never had this before. I'm going to need some help. We can assign, we call them VRCs, a vocational recovery counselor. And their number one job that they're trained for, that they're certified in, is figuring out how to assist people vocationally and getting them back to work as a whole. So they will work with the worker, and it's one of the expectations from the worker as well, that they have to return the vocational counselor's phone calls and correspondence. So, everybody has a role in this. We also need the worker who's injured to participate in their recovery. And if we're paying time loss, we are expecting them to participate in their recovery. If there is a situation where, unfortunately, sometimes the worker won't return the voc counselor's phone call, what we, the department, can then do, if, it's been like a month and they're trying to get a hold of them and we can't do it, Well, this is delaying you, the employer, because you've asked for help. You're trying to get this worker back to work, and we're paying money this whole time. We would then have the authority to stop the time loss and say, you know, hey, if you're not doing your part, we need to shut this off because we need current documentation to support why we're continuing to pay you. And we need to make sure that the employer's rights are protected as well, because you guys are paying us to help that worker get back to work. So the voc counselor, you're going to see their role is exactly the same for the worker and the employer. They work for you as well. They're going to form a return to work plan with the worker. And in turn, they're going to reach out to you, the employer, to make sure it's something that you can do. And if you can't, it's a conversation. And that's when we start getting creative. What needs to happen to get them back to work? They'll also be able to identify any barriers for them returning to work. So occasionally, and this happens, you'll hear somebody say, well, I can't go back to work because who's going to take care of my kids? I've been home now and I've been taking care of the kids. Well, you know, the reality is somebody was taking care of their kids while they were working. So we start having that conversation with the worker. Like, what do you need? And the vocational counselor also is located within the community. So they have resources within the community that we L&I don't know of or aren't able to provide. So maybe it's something that can't be covered under the claim, but you know, they can maybe do dial-a-lift and they connect the worker. Like, what do you need to get stuff done? If you can't get to your doctor's appointment because your leg's broken and you're the only one that drives and nobody can help you, the voc counselor is really, it happens all the time, really great at getting creative and finding resources within the community. Unfortunately, you know, time loss is only 60% of somebody's wages when we end up paying it. So it's not a lot. And so what we often hear is people say, hey, you know, I was already behind and now they're going to cut my power. They're going to cut my bills. You know, I just don't know how to support myself right now. And our time loss payment isn't enough. Voc counselors can put them in contact with people within the community to help support those services. So that's also great. So their job is to help remove barriers.
And a vocational counselor gets assigned to them, or do they have to request one?
At L&I, our mission is as soon as we see time loss, we are on the phone and how do we get this person back to work? And do we need to assign a vocational counselor? You, the employer, can ask for one anytime. So even if the person goes back to work, let's say they're back to work light duty, we might still keep the vocational counselor assigned to the claim just to make sure that everything's going okay until they're able to fully resume their work duties. So they're your partners too. It's their role to help you and the worker get back to business. And the vocational counselors are also expected to correspond in your language of preference. So if you're contacting them and you need an interpreter, you need something in a different language, they will get that to you. And if they don't, that's when you call the claims manager. Remember, when in doubt, call the claims manager. Next slide. So here's some really good details on the Stay at Work program. Kind of got ahead of myself, but it's an exciting program. I'm very excited about it. So again, it's 50% of wage reimbursement. So we pay up to $10,000. Your tools and equipment, we pay $2,500 per claim. And again, you keep the tools and the equipment. We can also pay up to $1,000 in any additional training. And clothing, we pay up to $400, and that becomes property of the employee. So right there, if you do the math real quick, the employer can benefit for up to about $1,400. That's all yours just for helping your worker get back to work while they recover. And again, it shows how committed your business is to keeping people safe. And then it shows the rest of the staff that, hey, if something happens, I'm going to be okay. I have no fear of filing the claim. I have no fear of letting my employer know what's going on. Next slide. Okay, goal 4 is to help honest workers, businesses, providers, and crack down on the dishonest ones. So, unfortunately, there are cases where fraud does take place. And as an agency, we aggressively identify and issue consequences to wrongdoers. So this approach stops fraud before it occurs, and it creates a fair and equitable system for all. So like I said, we're back to communication. If you feel at any time that something's a little off, it is okay to call the claims manager and have that conversation with them. Shouldn't your conversation result in the claims manager saying, I think we need to get an investigation to look into this a bit further, that information will be private. You won't see it in the claim file because everybody has access to it, including the worker. But you are always able to contact the claims manager and have those offline conversations to see how it's going. And Susana might be leaving us in a bit, but I will relay any information to her that you guys need. Okay, let's see that. Oh, so if we do an investigation, once the investigation is concluded, then it will become part of the claim file and everybody can take a look at it. So it's not going to be secret forever, but obviously during the investigation, we will stay quiet about it. For claim suppression, I touched on that just a little bit at the beginning. What that is like I said, is if you as an employer were to tell your worker, you don't need to file a claim, it's okay, it's just a little cut, I'll pay for the stitches. That's considered claim suppression and it's not allowed. So, oftentimes people just don't know that it's not legal and they're doing it to be kind and, to keep costs low. Please let us help you by just encouraging them to file the claim. It's also considered claim suppression. Well, I'm going to leave it there. If you want to report injured worker fraud, the phone number is right there. Again, all of that is confidential. And I don't have any additional things on that. If we do end up issuing fraud orders, we recoup money and all of that happens. It rarely happens. I think, point number one is the best one. A lot of it is a misunderstanding. And so if you just talk to the claims manager, ask your questions, we're able to gather some information and maybe clarify some issues. The biggest one we really hear is when the injury is not reported and then you, the employer, find out about it. Everybody's kind of like, whoa, I didn't know this happened. Are you sure it happened? And that's why, again, it's real important on your initial safety program, or again, maybe a yearly reminder that the best thing to do is notify you if an accident happens. So if they decide to file a claim later, you guys have that information in there and it doesn't catch you by surprise.
I think that's such amazing information. I mean, especially like you mentioned, I mean, there's just so many departments and resources that LNI offers. And this is just one department that I believe that you definitely can help them with. And thank you so much for providing us this information. And like I mentioned before, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us if you need any assistance. And if you'd like us to make that connection with Sui, give us a call. I think we're at the time. And yeah, it's about 4:57. If you have any other messages that you like to leave everybody with, or your contact information, because just in case if they have any questions that you'd like to leave it with in closing.
If you'll go to the last slide, I believe it has my contact information right there at the bottom. You're welcome to contact me with any questions that you have. If you have claim specific questions, I can connect you with the claims manager. If I leave you with anything, is that we're here to help. Let us know how to help. We work for you, so just let us know what you need. And this is great. Let your community resources like Cynthia and Alicia know how we're lacking so that they can also relay that information to us, because we're partnering with them. And that way, if we have to make adjustments, that's our job. We have to figure out how to make it work for everybody.
Wow,
I agree.
this is excellent. This is unbelievable, where a lot of people needed to know this because it's new. I mean, it's new information that I didn't even know. And so again, your presentation was excellent. Suhi, muchas gracias. And
A ustedes.
thank you.
And a lot of business owners, in closing with this, a lot of business owners or people they don't know that L&I offers free consultations for these business owners. A lot of times people, boom, get smacked with a fine and not realizing like they really just didn't know, you know, and so we get the aftermath where they get the fine and it's kind of like, okay, well, let's see how we can assist you. Maybe we'll put you in the right point of contact at L&I. But you guys, take advantage of L&I. This is free services for your business. They come in, they do a consultation in your business just to make sure that you're operating efficiently and applying all the things that are needed that they request without getting fined. So it's like, hey, just making sure I'm operating correctly. Like, and it's free 99, so that you can't get any better than that.
Well,
So
actually, the employer is already paying for it, so.
Yes, exactly. So take advantage of your resources that you guys have. Get a consultation, get in contact with us. We have an amazing person we work with at L&I, and he does the consultations, and he will literally help you make your business better, more of a success, making sure you're operating efficiently. So feel free, reach out to us. We can make that connection and take advantage of the resources that you guys pay for. So like I mentioned, whereas in closing, if you feel that you guys would like to be on our next charla, would you guys like to speak? If you have a topic that you like the community or business owners in our community that you'd like them to know, feel free to reach out to us. You can give us a call, 509-225-9921, or email us info@cscyakima.com. So like I said again, thank you so much. Reach out to us, and we should have keep updated at our Facebook, CSC Yakima, for any upcoming charlas and events, or visit our website for our upcoming charlas. And we will see you guys next time.
Gracias. Cuídense.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.